Hi, everybody. Welcome to the City of Doral's first Intro to CSS webinar. It is April 20th, 2021, and it is 3:30. We're very excited to have you here, so welcome. We will be recording this webinar, so any questions or anything that you have, we will try to answer as best we can. You also have the chat box available and the question box. Just a few things before we get started. I am Jane Decker. I'm the Assistant Building Department Director and Interim Building Official for the department. We're also joined by Mark Haggerty, Floodplain Manager, and for this project, Master Subject Matter Expert. He's been truly instrumental in helping get this project off the ground. We might be joined by Claudia and Carlos. I'm sure several of you know who they are. And we also have Carlos Olivares from the IT department if we have any questions at the end regarding IT. Just a few things as we get started. I'm sure we're all COVID professionals now and know our way around a webinar. Make sure to stay on mute. And I think only the organizers have the power to unmute you. Do use the questions and chat box. And at the end, we hope to go through a rather quick presentation. We don't intend to take too much of your time. Several of you on the call are familiar with the system already, so this might be a repeat for you. But do keep the questions broad. We know you all have very specific project questions about workflows and where you're at in the process. And as you know, we've been attending to emails as swiftly and as best we can, given the circumstances. So really quick, our agenda for today, we're gonna start you off back at the beginning at cityofdoral.com/building. That is our homepage. Just a reminder of how to find things there that you might need, including forms. We're going to go over to the CSS login page, walk you through registration, and then we'll show you how to apply for a new permit. We'll briefly touch on reworks and how those get submitted. We'll touch on inspections and how those get scheduled from your workflow. We'll have a quick reminder about contractor registrations. And then we'll show you the calendar. So I know many of you who have a lot of projects and you wonder, is my inspection scheduled? Where is it at? I don't know if you've seen the calendar yet, but it's an awesome tool for you, and a brief Q&A at the end. Okay. I'm going to minimize this window. Now, we did not rehearse this at all. This is sort of off the cuff and winging it, but we're going to start back at the beginning like I mentioned. So cityofdoral.com/building will bring you to our homepage. Many people often skip the bottom part and they just go right through to the new link to the new CSS portal. But there's lots of great information down below, and we just want to remind you of a few things. All of our customer service hours are on the right-hand side, so if anything changes, you can always stay up to date on what we're doing by looking at the right-hand side. The CSS portal is available in the upper right. That takes you directly to the CSS portal if you don't have that bookmarked already on your page. Videos and tutorials. So today's webinar will appear here in videos and tutorials. I also have another video that we made right as we went live showing you how to log into CSS. We also have FAQs and submittal guides. We hope to expand on this even further. What you can find here is a revised version of our electronic submittal guidelines. Obviously, as we have to work with and support the county for their reviews, you do have your naming conventions and their drawing requirements. We still do ask for individual files as we submit to them. Just a note on that as well, when you come back for final review, if you submit the batch, it is possible that you can do that, but we still prefer the individual files because your reworks will happen individually. The rest of our FAQs are here. Most of those have been updated as well. Many of the other items are familiar from before: your flood zone determination, contractor registration requirements that brings you to the contractor registration form. Applications and forms, that's our repository of all of our forms, whether it's a revision application, permit application, floodplain development application, your NPDES forms, your roofing packages, all of those can be found there. And then some other general information. We did go live with Tyler 311 back in November. So our design professional meetings, you used to email Carlos Diaz. We do accept those meeting requests now through the 311 portal. Design professional meetings are an option there. Any important announcements are sort of mid-page here, and those are updated regularly. Some of our other pages still remain as well, and we're updating those as more information becomes available. As always, you can contact us. Our personnel page lists all of our staff emails and phone numbers. Like I mentioned, we are doing our best to respond to those emails and phone calls in a timely manner. So that's the building department. When you click the CSS page, if you don't already have a login, your home page will look something like this. We've also included several links on this page to help manage your permit. And I mentioned this in the first video. So you can see where you can log in or register, apply, pay an invoice, request an inspection, search records, Miami-Dade County's property appraiser page, Miami-Dade County's link to their microfilm and plans library, the fire life safety inspection request link, City of Doral flood information, the Durham public access portal, which also has some elevation certificates that were available at the county, the new MDC plan status and certificate of use portal. So if you've noticed a change at the county, they did update their site, and we have a direct link here for convenience, as well as the old plan portal. Across the top of the page, you have some buttons and features that might be useful, including apply, which will give you your 3 broad categories of what you can apply for, including permits, plans, and licenses. So very broadly speaking, permits are anything you used to apply for a permit for, pretty much. Plans is what this system uses for mostly the planning and zoning department, as well as some code cases and processes, and as well as those first few processes you see there for master model. Licenses, we have our contractor registrations. So depending on whether or not you're a CTQB holder, a state registered or state certified contractor. We also have private provider registration, so you can also submit your documents that way, as well as the rest of the BTRs. Today's inspections, we'll have today's inspections. So if you are a permit holder or an authorized agent on your permit, you can click that link and see it there. Map is obviously the overall map of the city. Reports that are relevant to your plans, permits, or licenses. The fee estimator tool, which is very convenient. So if you know the process that you want to apply for, you can click on that, fill out some information, whatever is required for that work class, and you can actually save that item so that you can apply later when your drawings are ready. Pay invoices, search, general records, and calendar. So to register, a new registration is simply click register, enter a valid permit or valid email address, such as a very old one, and click next. I believe I've already registered with this one, so you do have to certify that you are who you say you are. And you'll get an email and a confirmation that you'll have to click. Do check your spam. The email extension should have something in it regarding Tyler service. So that's registration. Once you're in, you'll notice some of our staff have created logins, and that just helps facilitate the conversation with you as we help you navigate. So if you see any of our staff attached to your permit as contacts, we're not invading, we're just trying to help. So your dashboard, when you are a registered CSS user, will appear something like this, still with all of those same buttons, as well as any important announcements or closures or any changes procedurally will appear at the top. You'll have My Permits. You can see what's needing attention, what might be in pending status, what's currently active, any drafts you have saved, and anything you've worked on recently. The View My Permits will also take you to a more in-depth listing of your permits. My Plans, as we mentioned, many of the planning and zoning processes will appear here. And My Inspections, what you've requested, what you've scheduled, and what are finished, any outstanding invoices, and then any licenses. Let's head back up and see the Apply button. So when you apply, many people already know what they're applying for, but if you need help, we don't want it to be too tricky, you can come over to the All button. You'll see there's 293 different permit types that we have, 24 different plan types, 13 different license types. So when you click the All button, it does open up an application assistant. And what we've tried to do is use meta tags on many of these processes to help you navigate typical permit types. So it will search the job descriptions of them. Something very popular right now are pools. You just type in pool as a keyword. What you see is our naming conventions that we have. So if you've used Miami Shores or Miami Beach, Oakland Park, Sunrise, Marco Island, they all run on the same system. And so what we've done, our work classes and our workflows are divided up between commercial and residential. They're also divided up whether they're a primary or a master permit or a sub permit. As many of you know, sometimes you'll have a sub permit on something and that doesn't need to go to the county, whereas a master permit might. So we've just segregated those out so that way the workflow steps go faster on those that don't need to go to the county, and there's a few more steps on the ones that do. So you'll see commercial, residential. I'm going to install new residential primary pool. So it selects it here, and then you see an Apply button. The first step we have to do is assign the location for the pool. You'll see a note here that most permit types require only one location, and different work classes have different requirements. I do see here that there is no required button at the bottom. However, we need to fix that. But if you're not able to locate the correct address just by selecting a few digits of the address, there is a request for address assignment workflow that is available, and that's available in the plan section. So many of these new communities that might have addresses yet, you can use that step to request an address from planning and zoning. So let's click a location. As many of you know, this is now a GIS-based system. So what you see is the base background of our GIS map for the city. Future releases will have a little bit more functionality here, but as you can see, this is pretty much the city of Doral, our lovely 17 square miles. So if we're going to type an address, what I do recommend is that you start just with the first few numbers of the address. Note we do not write out the direction, and we also don't have any suffix on the actual street. I'm hoping that this is an address. Okay. And so what we see here is the parcel and the address and a point on the map. There's also layers and stuff that you can turn on here on our GIS map, but if you're confident that that's the address that you're wanting to select the checkbox and a apply button appears. And this will take you to the next step. Okay. So now we see we've added our location. We click next. So anything with an asterisk or a star must be filled out. You'll see that in later screens as well when you get to the More Info tab. Anything that is red is required. So this is Jane's dream pool. It is going to be 1,200 square feet, and it's $30,500. Noting that these fields are asterisk, then they do must be filled out in order to proceed to the next step. Okay. So now we're on the Contacts tab. So again, different work classes have different requirements. This is a master permit, a primary permit for a residential pool. So we do need a contractor on this permit. I know many of you had issues when we were first launching the system, and that was just getting connected your old contractor registration to the new system. So what we told many of you to do was to select Dry Run as your company. And all we did was we created a contact called Dry Run in our system that had every certification under the sun. And so that, as you see, allows you to move forward in this process. But if you've already navigated that process and you've already figured out, no, my pool contractor is registered, and I'm not playing favorites to any specific pool contractor, I just happen to know the few that I've worked with, you can search. Hopefully they appear. Ooh, Happy Pool sounds fun. And so far, so good. We may get to the next button and their registration might not be updated, but we're going to check in a second. Oh, and did I do that under owner? Oops, sorry about that. I told you we didn't rehearse this. Okay. That's what I was looking for. So if you do get this area, Happy Pools does not have the required certification. All that means is we've not connected their contractor registration in back office to our professional licensing module, which is housing all of our contractor registration tools. So again, you can go back and select the Dry Run and your process will move forward. And we'll make a note in back office. Obviously, your permit application, which is still required, will indicate to us who the contractor is. From the property appraiser, you're going to select the property owner. We do ask that you still download the property appraiser information. Right now, I'm just going to say that I'm the owner. And I'm going to still make it a Dry Run. I do see some questions coming in, so I'll get to those in just a second. So you can see now there's no other cards here that are required, which means we can move forward. However, if there's anybody you would like to connect to your permit or to your plan so that they have access in CSS to be able to see the process or request inspections or make submittals, you can categorize them here and add them to the permit. It is helpful that they also have a CSS login. And now we click next. As you can see, we have some red boxes that are required. So fill out those that are red and as much information as you can on any of the others. Our plan reviewers in back office will check that work and make sure fees fire correctly and that it's the right information for the scope. So in this case, it's a new construction because it is a pool. We're on the 2020 code edition. It's going to be a 15,000 gallon pool. I don't need any gallons or any words after it. Just note that if you recall our fee schedule, which is available from both the CSS page or from the building main page, some of our permits are feed based on quantities. So what we check when the permit comes in and What we look for are the quantities in order to fire those fees, because they should be automatic. When we get to the end of this process, you will see an estimate of your fees. We have removed the upfront fee requirement for most building permit processes. A few like early start and a few others still require an upfront fee, and most planning and zoning processes, I believe, still require an upfront fee. So if you have any pavers around your pool, you can indicate that as well. Happily, we're in zone X. Base flood elevation is not required. I don't know my flood panel, but I can consult my floodplain manager if I need to, and just answer a few questions here. You see they're not required, so I could move forward if I need to. I check my work here and select next. Okay. So now we're at attachments. And again, anything that is required will be shown along the bottom. So what we see here is we need an application. Our permit application is still required at this time. We have not revised that process yet. Plans and drawings, individual sheets only, please, especially for pool plans, any plans actually. And then proof of ownership, and that's just the printout from the Miami-Dade County Property Appraiser's site. Note that the only files we are supporting at this time are PDFs. Again, you have the option to add additional documents for any community with an HOA where an authorization letter is required, or if you have your soil statement ready for a pool, or if you have any structural engineering calculations, you can submit them there. So let's see. We should have, I know Mr. Haggerty had set up some files. I'm just going to grab a random permit application, a plan, just one plan. It's a simple pool, and proof of ownership. We'll say that's proof of ownership. Many of you will know from our processes that we do ask for a contract or an estimated good faith estimate. So those would be additional documents that you would attach. Once you've attached all the files, we click next. This last page is the standard language that you've seen on the back of our permit application for years. You would just type your name and you can either type or sign your name and select next. The review and submit page will give you all the information that you just entered. So you'll confirm that. It'll give you a listing of the estimated fees based on the values that you entered, a recap of the information, the attachments that you did submit, it'll list those out. And here's where you can either save the draft to come back to it later or hit submit. I'm not going to hit submit right now because we've got a lot of plans to work on. Okay. I'm going to pause right there. So I think we have some apply questions, and while I look at the questions, Mark, was there anything that you felt I missed or that we should add on apply?
No, I think you covered it all the way through, front to back on that. The feature of save draft should be very helpful for a lot of people. And there's also one thing on the left side that you may want to show everybody is save template. We know we have quite a create template. We have quite a few people that do a lot of new construction, so they can create a new construction template, and that will be very helpful. They won't have to continue to add all the information. They can just change the location and the plans, and everything else will already be pre-programmed for them. That's very helpful.
Great tip, Mark, thanks. As you can see, I clicked back to my dashboard and I now have a draft saved in my draft folder. So really quick, I have a question from Mary. Thank you, Mary, for joining us today. Please confirm for us if we need sub-permit applications submitted with master permit application for commercial projects. Thank you. Obviously, that would be super helpful, but not always do we have all of our qualifiers up front. So those are usually asked for in back office. We're actually working through a process to have our chiefs help and aid our permit clerks that are working steadfastly on our applications each week. So hopefully we'll have more information for you on that coming soon. We try not to burden the process too much up front. So that's why we don't ask for all of the qualifiers. I do know that when we were going through the assess and define phase of this project, that was a question, but we felt that there was many more unknowns at the beginning of a project than knowns. And so we felt it would be a disservice to our customers if we did ask for all of that information up front. So I hope that answers that. Lori has a question. How will plans be routed to Miami-Dade County? Plans routed to the county happens exactly the same way as it did pre, post-COVID, and post-EnerGov go live. Our review coordinators, AKA our permit clerks, will receive these files on our side in our permitting system. They will then download those drawing files, applications, the Miami-Dade County permit application, the contact form. So those are all additional attachments that you should be including in your process. They will download those files to a local drive, and then they will upload those files through the CPP, the Concurrent Plans Processing Portal for Miami-Dade County. It is two separate processes. That's why we've got really big screens, so that way they can navigate both sides of the submittal process. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you for joining. Mary's got a quick fees question. When you go to pay fees, that the system seems to offer an American Express option, but we can't pay with American Express. This has been a request of our customers for many years, and I don't have the information or logistics behind why we do not accept American Express, but I think this is a system, a templated piece of the system that we cannot change, but we will certainly look into that. In back office, we do some configuration to allow credit card, check, money order, or cash, but we don't have the ability to designate which cards. So I will get that question over to our finance department and see if we can get you an answer. Okay. So how do we ensure that the plans have been submitted to Miami-Dade County for review? I don't think we got Claudia. No, we didn't get Claudia into the session. I will get that question answered for you. We do have fields in our templates in back office that we fill out with your M number and your CPP tracking number. So I will find out if that information is outward facing. Okay. I did just receive a note that we may be accepting Amex very soon. So like I mentioned, I will get with our finance department and get those questions answered for you. Okay. Lisette asks, what about existing permits that were rolled over? How do we add authorized users? Very good question, and one that we deal with on a daily basis. What we ask first is that they have a CSS login. So if they have a CSS login, you can send an email to any of our chiefs or administrators, and they'll get that person connected in back office. Also, just back to Lori's question, you will be contacted or notified by MDC tracking if you're the contact on the application for Miami-Dade County. Excuse me 1 second. Okay. Lydia, thank you for joining. Who should we contact when we have an issue with a contractor or dry run? So the first step is, obviously, we want your processes to at least begin moving along. So we use dry run. Now, if dry run doesn't work, that's pretty unusual now. I think we've covered all of our work classes to have that certification. But we do need to check and make sure that the certification is correct for the actual real contractor. So whether it's a CPC or CFC or CGC that's required for that work class, we do need to check that in back office. So any trade chief can help, and they've been really super at facilitating that. With your contractor, though, they need to make sure their information is up to date. So if anything in their registration expired as of March 22nd when we went live, they still can update their information the same way that we've had in place for a few years now, and that's by sending an email with the updated documents to building records clerk at cityofdoral.com. Okay. Otherwise, new registrations can come in via the CSS portal. Okay, so I'm going to take a break from there for just a moment and go back to our agenda and get to inspections. As I mentioned, today's inspections should have everything that was on the schedule for today. We have not seen the functionality just yet of seeing a route or an order. However, this list is exportable. So if you know your permit number or your inspector or your address, you can export this list and sort it. So that is useful. And you can also sort it by inspection type or status or primary inspector. Back to requesting inspections. You're going to go back to your permit page. You'll see the status bar at the top that moves along to tell you where you're at. I'm going to take a look really quick and see what we have that's active. If any of these are your projects, once again, no favoritism. We were just working through just getting some demo files. Okay. Oop, that one's still in review. My apologies. Again, I know many of you work with Excel as well, so you can quickly export all of these to have for your file. Here's a roof repair. This is also a good time to show you what your dashboard looks like when you open up your permit. So this header is all the basic information on your project, when it was issued, when it's set to expire, the value, square feet, and the type. You can minimize that by clicking the up arrow. The rest of your dashboard is like so. You can see this is your summary page, locations, which will be any addresses associated or parcels associated with account, fees, your plans reviews, your inspections, your attachments, which is where you will download your approved set of plans and building permit card, contacts associated with the file, your sub-records, and the more info tab. So Lori, back to your question. Once we have submitted this to the county, we expect that you will see the M number in back office. If you don't see it, that's a quick adjustment that we have to make on that work class to make it visible. Back to your inspections, you can see what inspections have taken place, and then what's available to schedule. So you have the general inspections that are supposed to take place on this process, as well as any optional inspections. You do see that there are red errors when something is hindered by a prerequisite, and something, there are some inspections that have to happen before others. All you do is select the checkbox and click Request Inspection. Typically, the request will be honored the next day. Our inspectors do have to schedule it in back office and put it on their route. So that's a little different from the legacy system. Okay, so that was inspections. Let me see if I have any questions on inspections. Mark, anything to add on inspections?
No, ma'am, you covered it all.
Okay. I have a question from Eve. Thank you for joining us, Eve. How do we route new and existing plans to Durham? So as I mentioned earlier with the CPP portal, we are still required to submit to the county on your behalf. So that is taken care of in back office. If a plan does need to be submitted to the county, always be sure to include the municipal application and or the contact form. So if it's a rework, just make sure the contact form is there. Okay. I do see some project-specific questions. I won't be answering any project-specific questions at this time. We do encourage you to send us an email and we will follow up directly. Okay. Adolfo, thank you for joining us. I know we've corresponded a few times and we appreciate your patience. So you're asking what the expected time is once the system's up and running. So the system is up and running. We've just had the challenge of meeting the needs of all of our customers that were in review prior to the system transfer. So our hope is that once this sort of peak levels off, that we will return to our normal processing time. And as you know, as I've stated on many calls, our department goal is always to review in 10 days or less. We'll get there probably in the next few weeks, we hope. Okay. So that was a duplicate question. Okay, Hans, thank you for joining. Your question is, what's the process for rework and contacting the reviewer to address comments? So back in plans review, let's go back to our dashboard and view something that's in review. Okay. So any plans that were in process prior to 322, many of you know that we've been working diligently to bring over your legacy files, your drawings and attachments, so that way they can be positioned in the workflow to allow you to submit reworks. That is a manual process on our side. So once we've done that, your dashboards and your screens will look similar to this, where you will have review comments and you'll see the attachments that need rework. One of the benefits of the system is that you will be able to, the reviewers will be able to comment on, and you will be able to submit individual sheets that need rework. We don't often ask for the entire plan set to be resubmitted. As we negotiate sort of this transition from old to new, if you see plans that were already approved or sheets that were already approved and we've asked for them to be resubmitted, that's just to help us to make sure that we get everything into the new e-review system. So your sheets will be an available action here to resubmit, and your reviews will be available in the review tab. Okay, I don't see any arrows here. What you'll be looking for, you see this is complete, but it's rework required. So a good indication when your plan is approved is it should be green. But if there's comments on it, your comments will appear here. There will be a drop down with additional comments here that come from CSS. I don't see it on this particular file. Let me see if I can find one for you. Okay. So now on this file, we do see the drop down caret. And so you will see the rejection comments from each reviewer individually. When you're ready to resubmit, there will be a button to allow you to respond. There will be a blue respond button, and you can respond individually to each comment, and then an acknowledge button when you're ready to resubmit all of those attachments. Okay. Mark, I know you've done a lot of work on that. If you have anything to add that we can share that's beneficial, please do so.
No additional comment, like you said, just resubmit and just watch the acknowledge button that required on the resubmit. I don't know if you want to hit resubmit on one of them and show everybody where that acknowledge button is, because that's a little trick that everybody needs to know.
Let me see if I can get to one. So your resubmit page will look like this. This does not look familiar, Mark, just from the standpoint of the acknowledge button. That was usually on the reviews page.
Yeah, that's correct. It doesn't look like this,
That particular process.
that particular process number.
Okay.
It would be best if you would pick one that it was created in the new system. As you know, the legacies are creating some issues with CSS.
Sure. Here we go. Well, this one doesn't have the round completed. You can't win. But that button is in the bottom right, so we'll just watch for that toggle switch. Maybe we'll come across one that's ready. Okay. I see a question, Julian. Thank you. The plans must come in as individual sheets. Calculations, NOAs, other files like that will can come in as a binder, as a multi-page PDF. Okay. Adolfo is asking if the system will send us a notification every time our application has a change of status. Yes, any status change, I believe a notification is being sent out at this time. Okay, Jeanette, thank you for joining. Nice to have you. The question is, will the city go back to collecting upfront fees? So no, as of March 1st, when we did update our fee schedule, we removed that requirement. What you might see though, as the clerks get more adept and more savvy at processing all of these hundreds of applications, is an application fee, and that was approved as part of our ordinance to council. It's a $25 application fee, and what that does is it covers the cost of the clerk and just the intake of the file. Obviously, if we conduct reviews on that and you decide not to proceed, we kind of eat that cost, but our hope is that the system will be easy to use. You will proceed and you will meet your deadlines. Obviously, the same goes for expedite fees. We may return to an expedite model as the system levels off, but we're working through that right now. I don't want to, we're not accepting expedites. Anything that was in process, we're working diligently to get out of the system at this time. Okay, Lydia, welcome. I think I've said hello already. How do you see comments for the rejection? So that was on that previous page. I can go back to it. We are working on that error as well. Seems that something might have gotten deleted in back office and we're still working through. So your comments will appear here. This one just says, please submit corrections. So not a great example, but many of your comments will be there. Also, as we expand functionality, it is expected you'll have a markup report as well from our Bluebeam system. We trained on that many months ago, so we're still getting that back into our workflow. But any markups that our reviewers do, obviously we want you to see those because that's a tool to be able to help you make the right changes to your plans. So. Mark, I think this question might be for you. Lydia's just asking about BUC and final elevation certificates. So that's building under construction and finished elevation certificates.
Okay, for inspections of the field and BUC or FUC, what is the follow-up for that, Lydia? Is that the question you're referring to, Bob?
Yeah, so those have been created as inspections, just like they were in the old system. So you do have to submit the document and schedule the inspection. Mark, is the functionality available that they can submit that through the portal?
They can submit it through the portal, but again, FEMA is not accepting electronic signatures at this time, so the hard copy still has to come here. So we are requesting that the original be delivered to the office, and then the inspection gets scheduled, so we'll be able to process that same day for them. If they bring it in today and have the inspection scheduled for tomorrow, it'll be done by the end of business.
Great. Okay. Also, Lydia had a question about stamps once approved. So again, this is just a learning curve of getting all of the review coordinator tasked people in tune with both systems, both the new permitting system as well as the new plan review system, which we are using Bluebeam. So if any of your architects or engineers or consultants are familiar with Bluebeam review and do have questions, if we ever have to schedule a design professional meeting, we can also schedule a Bluebeam session and we can walk through any questions that we have on those plans. So it is a functional tool. That is where we will apply stamps and any approvals. Obviously, if you have the permit card in hand, our inspectors are also able to see the approved drawings when they're here in the morning in the office. And we're hoping to expand that functionality to include access to our Laserfiche system in the field. So that'll be coming a little bit later. Lisette, you have a question about legacy. Legacy just means the old permitting system. So anytime you see a permit status or an inspection status or anything referencing legacy, it just means it came from the old system and we needed a place to put it in the new system. So that's all that means. Okay. I think we've answered the question, just one page per submittal for plans and drawings. Okay, Hans, you have a question about our reviewer contact info. You will see the person's name in the review as we saw on that previous page. I'll bring that up. And as I mentioned, our personnel directory is available from the City of Doral.com/building main page. So we do answer emails and phone calls as best we can in a timely fashion. So you can see the reviewers' names are here. So all of our building staff are available here in our personnel directory. So all of our contact information and extensions are there. We hope that helps. Jeanette's asking if we need to respond to the comments through the system. Yes, that is a requirement of the system that each comment is answered individually. You'll also note on reworks or revisions that we ask for a revision or rework narrative. Many architects or design professionals already produce that as a courtesy, so that is helpful, but the system does require a line-by-line entry. It's okay too, and we haven't discussed it internally, but if you say C narrative or C plan response sheet, and that is attached as an attachment, that'll be fine to move forward. Okay, Kathy's got a question about how do we add a document or drawing that is new. So you do have to wait for the round to complete. If it's something from a legacy file where something was missing or document was missing, we'll work with our clerks to help get you that file uploaded. We have run into some issues with just adding 1 or 2 documents on legacy files. Okay. So Lydia is reminding us, yes, you have to upload the corrections first, and then it gives you the option to respond and hit that toggle switch. Okay. Mary's asking, when we submit the same page, we name it exactly the same and the system automatically versions it. Yes, our system will automatically version it, which is helpful because then when our clerks download it, it's a version 2, and they'll be able to upload it to the county. OT inspections. Caesar, thank you for joining. One of our most popular users of OT inspections. Same process. So these are still getting emailed to the chiefs with a copy to say that, I believe, and we schedule them in back office. We have to issue the invoice and get it scheduled and make sure that we have staff available. Okay. Going back to our process really quick, I'm going to take a break from the questions. On contractor registrations, I mentioned it at the beginning. We do come in, it's under licenses. It's not it's under not business license, but it's a professional license that we use. So you can see that list is here. So if you're a CTQB holder, state certified contractor, state registered contractor, that's how you would apply. Location is not a required card, but we do expect that is your business location. And you can tell us if you're a CGC or whatever kind of contractor you are, and click next. You will automatically be the applicant. And then obviously we need all of your information, including your license number, business tax receipt, occupational license, liability insurance, workers' comp. And then the same information will happen at the end. You can attach copies of all of those documents and then review and submit. All updates will happen the same way that they've been happening, by emailing updated documents to building records clerk at cityofdoral.com. Okay. One last thing. So we mentioned the inspections and the calendar. I did want to show that. So this will be a useful tool to monitor and track both your licenses, any invoices, your permits, plans, and inspections. And they show up here on a handy calendar. At this time, I don't think we'll be populating any public hearings or public meetings, but that should be available at the main City of Doral website. Okay. I think we have a few more questions. So how do we process revisions under an approved master permit? That's a great question. So we've set up our process. If we go back to permits and we click apply and we type revision, you'll see two come up. So if you have a revision as a commercial project, revision for residential, you can click apply. All we ask for is your master permit number. You'll add the location of the original permit, and it'll ask you some other general information, your contacts, the master permit number, and then any attachments that you want to submit. Okay. How do we see results on inspections? That's a great question, Lydia, which I don't have the answer to. Let's see. So when you go back to your permit that you've selected and your main dashboard, click inspections. Let's go to the end of the file. Or the beginning. Looking for something recent. Oh, here we go. This is a denied inspection, re-inspection required. Simply select the blue highlight. And we should.
That was a legacy inspection, boss, so that might not come in. So let's look for a large number way at the end. Those are the legacy numbers. That permit might have been okay. I saw a couple of them, but
let's see.
You can look at a legacy permit, just pick an inspection that was created after the transfer.
Here we go.
There you go. Yeah, though, any one of those top four, you should be able to look at number 2, and you should be able to see a comment. That's under the checklist.
Okay. So checklist is where comments are found. So in some work classes, there might be multiple items here. You might pass one of the items, but might not pass the whole thing. But you can see here, this one was not passed. Anything else on that, Mark?
No, the description and the comment is obviously no ladder provided. This is obviously a roofing permit. Ladders are required. So the comment there in the middle of the screen is no ladder provided under the checklist. So, you know, that is what why the inspection failed.
Correct. And if it does say refer to pictures or corrections required, that will appear here in attachments.
Correct.
Okay, change of contractors. So that still happens the same way. I believe Claudia is still processing those in association with our clerks. Lori's got the question, can we submit in person? Challenging question. Yes, you can. We ask or we hope that you will bring a file with your documents on it. Mark, remind me though, and I had remember hearing this many months ago, that a file created in back office is or isn't visible in CSS?
It should be available in CSS as long as they have a CSS account and the contact that they're using in back office is the same one that they're using for their CSS account.
Great. Okay, that's what I thought. If it's a paper process, I know we've had some challenges and some discussions about paper processes. This is not a paper processing system. So if paper processes were brought to us, we would be sending them out to a provider. We do not have a large scale scanner here, and we would be processing scan plans. And I know that some design professionals, that's not kosher. So you would still need to print a set at the end of approval and have it signed and sealed in order for us to legally issue the permit. So we hope that both DBPR and the Florida Administrative Code and everybody else are going to get on board this coming legislative cycle to make it more easier for the design professionals and allow them more flexibility with the electronic signatures and certificates of authority. We did research as well. City of Miami has a very extensive outreach document outlining certificate authorities that they recommend. We also looked into it with our IT and security teams, and they had no issues with those that were recommended for the City of Miami. So if that is the route that the design professional takes, we're happy to accept it. But Lori, we hope that you are able to submit, you know, at home, you know, at whatever time of night, having a glass of wine and enjoying the evening that you desire. That is our hope. So, can you select trades for reworks? Great question, Julian. We haven't created a document yet that has been in the pipeline and in the thought process, similar to Miami-Dade County, that we would have a document where you would select the reworks, but we haven't created that functionality yet. But it's great suggestion. Okay, scrolling. Jeanette, yep, the naming conventions that the county uses is what we expect our customers to use. So that is available in the electronic submittal guidelines document. I'll go back really quick and show you where that is. Back at cityofdoral.com/building, go to our FAQs and submittal guides, and it's right here. It's the electronic submittal guidelines. Okay, I think I answered that already. Uh-oh. Mark, any other tidbits of information that I haven't touched on yet that would be helpful for our users while I scroll through the rest of this?
No, I think you covered it. The big helpful points to most of the people on the call will be the drafts and the create templates that we've already covered.
Okay, great. Dolfo had a question. If I'm already registered, how do I link another license? or I have to register a new one. So we can link multiple licenses. That's a little tricky for the user to do, but we can do it in back office. So an email to our building records clerk at cityofdoral.com should be able to help that. How can a GC see what's pending on their master permit in order to work towards CO? Great question, Jeanette. So basically from their dashboard, and when they select their plan or permit, very broadly speaking, plans do not have inspections since those are generally administrative processes. But for example, on your workflow under roof, they'll be able to see how far they are in their workflow. You won't have all these info pieces that is from a legacy file, but you'll see what's coming next and what's needed to get to the end. So I hope that answers it. If there's any workflow pieces, this is a roofing permit, so there's nothing here on sub permits or workflow steps, but you will see that here in your workflow as to what's coming up. And yes, we are still accepting the affidavit, Julian, for scanned copies. And Jeanette, a date at the end for Reworks is helpful, at least for the time being, only because of the nuances of the Reworks that got caught at 322. But otherwise, our system will version it. Excuse me. Can a homeowner apply for a permit as a builder? Yes. So Danilo, up in the registration, contractor registration section, we were allowing an owner builder to submit. We are doing that in back office now for the time being. All you have to do is provide a copy of your driver's license and proof of ownership, and we register you basically as a owner builder contractor, if you will. So anything that you would normally qualify to do owner builder work in an owner occupied structure will be allowed, and you'll be attached as a contact to that process as an owner builder. And we'll handle those through building records clerk at cityofdoral.com. So what is preferred when we pay for a master? To apply for subs listed under the master or apply for a brand new number. The way these workflows work, if you apply for a new number, numbers are not created at the start of the process anymore. So in the legacy system, when we did a plan review and we would create a plumbing sub permit or an electrical sub permit, it would automatically generate a number. Now what you will see in your workflow is link to a new plumbing or a new electrical permit. So you can apply for those separately. And what happens when they go in, the reviewer will go ahead into that master workflow and click link, and it will attach that record now, that new record that comes in. The alternative way is that they can create it at the beginning and let you know the number, but we'll be working through those details as we move forward.
If I may, Jane, they're also on the master, they're able to go to the sub records, and it will allow them to apply for a sub permit if they pick the new construction or something that might require a sub permit.
Okay, let me see if I have something that's.
So yeah, they have the ability to apply under sub records. It should be available to them there.
Okay, so this happens to be a interior alteration commercial, and we see that the sub records here have been created and they're in review, but that would happen here is what you're saying, right, Mark?
Yes. Anyone that was pre-programmed into the workflow should be available there to apply.
Great. Okay. Question from Mary, great question. Will workflow for inspections automatically reset if a revision is submitted and approved? No. The reviewers will have to add those back in as available actions to call. Julian's asking about TCO. So our TCO process hasn't changed. You still make that request through the administrative assistant to the building official, say that for you. But payment will be made through the online portal. So she'll generate an invoice for you and send you the number, and you'll be able to pay online. Julian, removing plans that were uploaded in error to our account. And so any of our clerks can help you with that if something was submitted in error. And requesting meetings, so that's back to what I mentioned at the beginning. If you go to our home page, we moved our design professional meetings to our 311 request line. So you can request it this way. And when you get to our Tyler 311 portal, you can make a request. And you'll see when it pops up, the first option is building department meetings. So those come direct to us, and you can add any information in the bottom of the request, including your permit number and any time that works best for you. We do try to schedule these for Fridays between 8 and 12 as best we can. And we are doing them virtually via Microsoft Teams. So you'll receive an email invite for that. Danilo, you had a question about a license that hadn't been approved. So go ahead and you can email buildingrecordsclerk@cityofdoral.com, and you can provide that number that you received, the CCSR or number that falls in line with that, and we'll try to get your questions taken care of. So that is all the information that I have. I'm going to put up our contact information, but you also have it available in our personnel directory as I showed you. I don't see any more questions in the question box. Mark, anything else to add as we close?
Not at this time. As Jane said, you have our email addresses there. Any questions, we're happy to help you with the best of our ability as quickly as possible. Awesome.
Thanks so much. I would like to thank everybody for joining today. We thank you for your perseverance along with us. We aim to strive excellent customer service, and this has proved challenging, but we're navigating it. Thank you to my IT team for hosting this webinar, and thank you to any future watchers of this webinar. Hopefully by the time you watch it, it's smooth sailing, and thank you to all of our attendees. So have a great day, everybody.